Hey guys, Chris here. In this video, we're talking about the Audi e-tron GT versus the Porsche Taycan. I'm almost at the end of my test week with this Audi e-tron GT, right before I'm going to make my full review on this car. But before I do that, I want to talk about this car versus the Taycan, because a lot of people are probably looking at this and a Taycan and wondering, well, which one of these should you go for? And in this video, I'm going to try to break it down and maybe or maybe not make the choice easier for you guys. And guys, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Chris. I have this channel dedicated to testing EVs. I do range tests, charging tests, efficiency tests. I drive these EVs down to 0% battery to see how far you can go on a full charge. So if these are the type of videos you guys like, be sure to drop a like on the video down below, and also consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell. So let's start with what is the most objective in, the easiest things to compare between these two cars, and that is pricing and models. And all of the stats I'm going to give here on, performance and horsepower is with overboost mode and also with launch mode, the performance numbers. So you can compare them directly, but these are the absolutely best numbers. So starting with the Taycan, it starts with the normal rear wheel drive version, starts at 758,000 kroners, and I will also be overlaying the pricing in the countries where my videos are the most popular. That car has 408 horsepower, does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.4 seconds, and comes with rear wheel drive. So I mean, that car, that price, it's kind of not a bad price at all. But to get a car out of the dealer showroom, in my opinion, you have to add some optional extras that are a bare minimum, in my opinion. I mean, you could go for a base car, and if you go for a base car, you have two colors to choose from. You have white and black, and then you have three interior options, which is a combination of leather and artificial leather. So that interior is actually quite nice. You have black, you have slate gray, and then you also have beige with black. So I mean, you don't have to even spend money on an interior or on the exterior color. So I would go for a white car probably, and then with the slate gray interior, maybe the beige and black. But then we have to start adding some optional extras. So the first one I would go for would be the performance battery, giving the car a performance boost up to 476 horsepower. That car now does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.1 seconds. And you also get the big battery, the 93 kilowatt hour in gross battery capacity. That's about 84 kilowatt hours net, giving you, probably with the rear-wheel drive version, over 500 kilometers in the real-world range. I would also option for the air suspension, because this, alongside the Taycan, are low cars with not that much ground clearance, especially over speed bumps with the nose being quite long. Optioning for that air suspension to raise the car, that's a positive in my book. Then I would also add the parking sensors with the backup camera. I would also add the adaptive cruise control, keyless entry. I would go for the heated seats, and also a heat pump. So with those optional extras, you're talking 882,000 kroners out of the dealer showroom. So I mean, that's about 130,000 kroners. If it was my personal car, I would probably add even more options just, to get it to my specification. But in my opinion, that is the spec most people should go for. Of course, if you live in a warmer climate, you may not need the heat pump or the heated seats, though, I mean, it's nice to have on a chilly day either way. And then you have the next model up, which is the 4S, starts at 974,000 kroners. You get 530 horsepower and 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.0 seconds. Then you have the turbo, and before I go into pricing, the turbo actually comes with more optional, more standard equipment than the 4S or the 4. So the turbo starts at 1,391,000 kroners. You get 680 horsepower and 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.2 seconds. Then you have the top dog, the Turbo S, starts at 1,689,000 kroners. You get 761 horsepower and 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 2.8 seconds. So I mean, it is more than twice the money, but you get twice the performance and 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in less than half the time. So yeah, those are some insane performance numbers. Then we move over to the E-Tron GT, starts at 899,000 kroners. And for that, you get 530 horsepower and 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.1 seconds. So you don't have the base here. This is comparable to the 4S, and it is about 75,000 kroners less, though you do get more kit as standard on the E-Tron GT. You get, panoramic sunroof and other stuff. I'm not sure about every, optional extra or standard equipment you get, but I know the sunroof, and you may also get heated seats and, a few things that are options on Porsches that are standard on, every other car. And then you have the RS E-Tron GT, comes in at 1,270,000 kroners, 646 horsepower, the 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.3 seconds. So that is comparable to the Turbo, and it is about 120,000 kroners cheaper. And the comparable E-Tron to the Porsche is about 0.1 seconds slower. So spec for spec, the difference between the Taycan and the E-Tron GT range from 100 to 150,000 kroners and more. So yeah, there's quite a substantial price difference between the two cars. Then let's talk about, maybe the biggest positives about these cars before we compare them like to like. And starting with the E-Tron GT, obviously value for money. It's quite, substantially cheaper than the equivalent Taycan, especially when you start optioning the Taycan. The Taycan can become pretty pricey. So, this car as base at 899,000 kroners, you can probably get a car that you could live with. Maybe you have to spend a little bit, get adaptive cruise control and stuff like that, but you're not spending a lot of money before you have a car that you can, that's actually fully usable in the real world. Then we have the biggest positives about the Taycan. In my opinion, it's the optional extra. So what is the positive about the E-Tron GT? It having more standard equipment and options being cheaper. The positive about the Taycan is that you can customize it any way you want. You have more exterior color options. You have more, exterior styling options. You have more wheel and tire options. You have more interior options. Not only do you have more interior color options, you can, you can cover the visors with leather. You want to cover the lower parts of the door, so you can, do the seat belts in a different color. You can do the stitching on the dashboard. There are so many options on the Porsche that you can customize it to your ever liking. I mean, it's quite insane, and it's one of the most customizable cars out there. Then we come to the part of the video which is purely subjective. I'm just giving you guys my opinion as we go through the points here. So there's no right and wrong, and you are in your full right to disagree with me. And if you do, please comment down below why you disagree and what you disagree on. So let's start with which is the best looking on the exterior. This is kind of a hard one. So I've been discussing this back and forth with a friend of mine, the past week, and he's like, every other day he likes the Taycan and every other day he likes the Audi E-Tron GT. And then we have Tesla Björn also, which has expressed kind of the same thing. And I was of that opinion also for the majority of the last week, and also the time up until, I actually got this test car. But now I'm, leaning towards I actually like the exterior styling of this better, just slightly. And that may be because in Oslo and in this part of the city where I live, Taycan seem to be a dime a dozen. And the Taycan has, a few things that I'm not a huge fan of, the normal Taycan, and that is, the rear diffuser. I think that's done better here. And when the car is, with a white paint color, it's even more obvious, and I like white on a car, so I'm like, I think I prefer this, but I'm, back and forth. And it may also be because, as I said, where I live, Taycans are dime a dozen, and they're not as special as this car. I mean, people turn their heads to look at this car, and even people like they're not, oh, you're passing me, I'm not going to turn my head, and then I look in the mirror and then like they're like you know, staring at this car. And the other day when I was on a range test to you know, doing my Norwegian high-speed run, a guy came up in a Porsche 911 convertible on the, you know, on in the next lane, and he was like giving me 2 thumbs up. So I mean, people like this car. It's really, really nice. So then let's hop to the interior, and yeah, this isn't that hard. I mean, this is a nice interior. It's a nice place to be, but what I don't like is all the glossy black plastic on the center console, especially. It's just scratched and ugly and just collects so much dust. And then you have the glossy black plastic on the top of the dashboard, which is just reflects. I mean, it's very nice, you know, this with the upgraded leather is super nice, and also the carbon fiber. I mean, it's a nice interior, but I think the Porsche is just a cleaner and nicer design, and just overall looks better, feels more special, and is of higher quality. So I prefer the Porsche Taycan's interior to this. Which one is the best handling? So I mean, there isn't too much in it, but I think the Porsche is just, you know, a tiny bit more sporty. And where the biggest difference is actually in the steering, where this has typical Audi steering, which is very precise. It's kind of numb and just dead. The first few hundred meters when I drove a Taycan, I was like, ooh, this is special. This is Porsche steering. So, you know, the steering alone makes the Porsche better in my opinion. But when it comes to ride comfort, this has, you know, the advantage over the Taycan. The Taycan rides just a bit more stiff. I mean, the Taycan is a very comfortable car, very impressive, and I'm comparing that car on air suspension versus this car on air suspension. And the Taycan I drove actually had 20-inch wheels. This has 21-inch wheels, but this is one of the best riding cars I have ever driven. This rides better than my Audi E-Tron 55 on air suspension and on 20-inch wheels. And where it really, I mean, you know, puts itself apart from every other car is the initial impact. There's a softness and suppleness. I mean, I'm maybe, you know, going on a limb here, but I think there's a camera up front here that actually reads the road like it does in the Audi A8 and S8, because if they're not doing it that way, I have no idea how they managed to have this car ride as good as it does. Then we have which one is the most special. So, I mean, as I said, where I live, I feel that this is more special because the Taycan is quite common. But again, this is just an Audi, and a Porsche is a Porsche with its, you know, pedigree, its racing history. I mean, the brand cachet, the Porsche crest. I mean, Porsches are quite special, and you know, I'm itching for a Porsche as one of my next cars. As you guys, you know if you've been watching my videos, I really want a Taycan, but I also really want this, and also this just is more rare, especially where I live. So it's kind of a wash. It's kind of a wash. Maybe this is more special because it's so rare, but you know, in a year or two time, I don't know, maybe there are more of these. But I really think that a lot of people cross-shopping these will go for a Porsche because it is a Porsche, making this, yeah, more rare. Then we have the last one. Which one would I actually choose? And guys, if you've seen, you know, if you're not new to the channel, you know what I'm on about. If you're new to the channel, well, thank you so much for stopping by. Have you remembered to drop a like on the video? And also, have you subscribed to the channel? Haven't you? Well, please consider doing that, and also hitting that notification bell. Thank you very much. Okay, so which one would I choose? And I've been, you know, the past week spending hour after hour every evening configuring this car, configuring, you know, a Porsche Taycan. And after I'm shooting this video, I'm going down to my local Audi dealer to see if I can get a good deal on an E-Tron GT. But to be honest, I think the one I would choose would be the Cross Turismo. I would have to choose the Cross Turismo because I think it maybe looks even better than this car, and it's more practical, and it is a Porsche. And you know, for the same money as this, with a few options, I could get a Taycan Cross Turismo, though with, you know, four-wheel drive and air suspension and the big battery and the heat pump and all of that goodness, but it would be the only be the 476 horsepower version, which does 0 to 100 kilometers in 5.1 seconds. I would do that compromise. I would compromise performance to get, you know, the versatility and the practicality of that Cross Turismo. So between this and the Taycan, I wouldn't choose any of them. I would go for the Taycan Cross Turismo. And I know it's a bit of a cop-out. It's a bit of a cop-out, but okay. I don't know. I can't decide. It depends on the price if I had to choose between them. I'm undecided. So guys, which one would you choose between this and the Taycan? Or would you cop out like me and just go for a Cross Turismo? Or would you choose another car? Please let me know down below in the comments. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always guys, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.
Cloudless skies in the mid